All right, welcome to the Responsible AI Summit. We're back from a little break, and we are very excited to have our first panel of the summit, where I am humbled to be joined by some incredible AI experts from around the world. I will start by introducing myself, and then I will ask the panel to do a little self-introduction, a couple of minutes for each of you, just to tell us who you are and what you do in AI ethics, and where you are from, and the background that you have in terms of the area in which you work. So my name is Clara Hawking, and I'm the co-founder of Compass Education. Compass Education is a consulting and training company. We work with schools, ed tech companies, as well as ministries, primarily in the European Union, but also in countries in other parts of the world and other regions of the world, to work on AI governance. So not AI literacy, but rather AI governance. How to integrate AI responsibly in a way that's not only compliant with regulations, but also meets the standards of ethics and care that we owe to our students of all ages when they're in educational environments. My background is in applied ethics and philosophy. I'm also a computer scientist, and I specialize in AI, machine learning, and have spent most of my time in AI really working on issues around ethics, equity, and policy. I do a lot of research in AI policy work from around the world, but primarily focused on the European Union, the UK, and North America, although I follow along quite a lot in other regions, and also very, very happy to have been asked to join the think tank for Africa, where we work on policy development as well, and where my two bits sometimes can be of value to the community there as well. And I will let the panel do a round of introductions of yourself. So I will leave the floor to each of you.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Aguado, and I am based in Lima, Peru. I am the founder of Ignite Lab Project. I am also an e-resident, so Ignite Lab Project is headquartered in Estonia, virtually. And I have been collaborating with several organizations and working groups regarding AI ethics and policy. And at the Ignite Lab project, we want to empower professionals, and we have a focus this year on also writing a report on the future of work, which we find is very vital for civil society. You can find me on LinkedIn and connect with me. I have also collaborated with Stanford Asynchronous course in tech ethics and public policy, and I encourage you, if you're interested in this, to also connect with me, as each year there's a new cohort, and it's a really powerful course that you could follow. So I give it to, I guess, who's next?
Gayathri, I think.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Clara. I'm Gayathri. I'm based out of Bengaluru, India. I'm AI security strategist helping enterprises adopt or build and AI innovations responsibly. I do help them build security in each life cycle of AI development, and like policies, implementation, adaptations of regulations or standards, and make them adopt standards like ISO or NIST or EU AI Acts, and hopefully do that gap analysis of what inbound cybersecurity capability they have to be able to upskill with that robust adoption we see across enterprises. I also am SMI Tribly, and I ISO 42001 certified, and I also do courses on Udemy. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Titilola Olojede. Have a PhD in philosophy, which I like to say Doctor of Philosophy in philosophy. My background is in philosophy, apparently. My bias is for ethics. I was struck when Clara said it. I said that's the reason we share so much in common. My background is in ethics. For 7 years, I thought theoretical ethics, aspects of ethics, teaching it from the history of philosophy perspectives in all the in all the epochs of philosophy, from ancient to medieval to modern and contemporary. So I believe it's given me a good grinding to be able to use those theories to interrogate contemporary issues like AI and bioethics. My first two degrees were, I have specialty in bioethics, but my PhD was in socio-epistemology. Both are in the normative aspect of philosophy, so it still fits very well. I am a faculty at the National Open University of Nigeria, headquartered in Abuja. It's the largest open and distant learning institution in West Africa, with about 160,000 students. In the last 2 years, have been researching very actively on AI ethics, using those theories at length to interrogate it. This year, I've been involved in Notre Dame sponsored grant project on integrating AI into teaching and research for higher education lecturers in Nigeria. Likewise, I am a co-researcher with the UNESCO-funded generative AI. There are 2023 guidance on generative AI for research for teachers and researchers. Then, aside core academics, I love social advocacy. So I do works with gender at work. I just concluded a 2-year training on AI for Development Africa, and I do a bit of consultancy work with them as well. So my interest straddles both the academia, which I think comes first, and also the non-profit sector. So in my spare time, I love to sleep, then I love to walk, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Titilola. That's great. I love to sleep as well. I think that's a good activity to do in spare time. Thank you so much for that, Veronica.
Good afternoon to everyone again, and I'm Paternolli Veronica, a PhD student in an Italian university at the north of Italy. And even if I'm doing my PhD at the computer science department, I'm not a computer scientist. My background is in the law field, and as mentioned before, because I granted firstly a bachelor degree in labor consulting, so more human sciences, and then a master degree in law for technologies and sustainable innovation. At the state of art, I'm focusing specifically on 2 projects, one financed by a company, a startup, Buildtrust, which is operating in the engineering sector, specifically considering civil works. So I'm studying the innovative use of smart contract artificial intelligence system for the use of concrete to build new works. And on the other side, considering the academia, I'm trying to define what fairness is and what is a discriminatory event considering new technology. My biggest aim and goal at the end of my PhD will be to reach a taxonomy between the definition of fairness, the several definition of fairness, equality, and equity, comparing them with several definitions of accountability. So defining who is accountable when a discriminatory event are involved in our personal life. Thank you very much.
Amazing, and a question of fairness and accountability, and therefore justice, a question that has puzzled philosopher for thousands of years, brings to mind the ancient Greeks, of course, and our Socrates, who spent his career working with these same issues. And many of the questions that he encountered are similar to the questions that we encounter in AI ethics today. As well, all of these years later. So thank you, all of you, for joining on this panel and for taking the time to share with all of our visitors from around the world. We have people that are listening from Jamaica, from Peru, from different parts of the United States, from the UK, Finland, Italy, and so on. So we really have a vast representation of visitors here at the Responsible AI Summit. So I want to start with a question for all of you. AI ethics is a rapidly evolving field. It used to be a bit of a niche, and often in technology a bit of an afterthought. First we innovate, then we think about the consequences. But we're starting to realize that the opposite order may actually be more beneficial in the long run. And we're seeing that it's really developing as a field, both in the legal field, in philosophy, but also within areas of engineering studies and medical studies. We see that students are being exposed to having to consider AI ethics as part of their curriculum. But it has very diverse challenges. And you are very diverse women from all over the world. So from your unique professional perspectives, what do you see as the most pressing ethical issues that are facing AI today? So I'll ask again, from your unique professional perspectives, what do you see as the most pressing ethical issue facing AI today? And Elizabeth, we'll start with you. What do you think?
I actually think it's a challenge that the way we're starting 2025, it's a little bit towards deregulation, because even though ethics is independent of regulations or law itself, intrinsically is not, we do need good regulations to be able to have those results. Like when you talk about ethics by design, what are the incentives? I still see that we're lacking incentives, and right for companies to build ethically. And as for the region, I see with optimism the cases of Chile, which has worked a lot on the laws, and even neurotechnology has been discussed in Congress. And so it's very important that the region is making those steps towards also harmonizing and having those equivalences. Like recently, Chile approved the ley de datos, which is like a GDPR. So it's very similar to what's happened to the law in the UK, the EU, and so it's easier to talk. So I wish that for ethics we could also have, if we're talking about taxonomies or different frameworks that we already have, that we're able to take action on them. Because I see that we have a lot of frameworks, a lot of work done, but little is translated, in reality. So that's what I can say. It's a mixed feelings for me, from my perspective.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Yeah, I think it probably resonates well with all of us, that we're seeing a bit of mixture there. Gayathri, what do you think?
Yes, Clara. I think for me, the applicability of cybersecurity measures and countering emergent risks that would arise from AI is a challenge that I would see. It can emerge risks in toxicity, harm, bias, discrimination, safety issues, because we see so much varied applications, varied domain use cases. We do not have that KPIs, metrics, or the existing process and procedures or standards that can be directly applied. So we have ways and means that are being developed, but I see that is a challenge. What I see that, how do you identify emerging risks? How do you quantify them? How do you evaluate them? How do you categorize them? How do you mitigate? They do have a trait of changing their behavior at each life cycle, at each stage of the life cycle. So addressing those things is what I see as a key aspect for me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Titilola, what do you think?
Yeah, thank you. I think that if only we can harmonize, if it's possible, many of the different frameworks that have been provided, and that would do a lot of good to the AI world. But in the absence of that, maybe an international agency like the UNESCO regulations of 2021, maybe it's quite detailed, I must say. It puts a lot of thoughts went into that document, because beyond the principles, it has values. Then it talks about the policy areas and the likes. Maybe we can look to that. But standing out for me among those principles recommended is transparency. It seems to me that we can start with transparency as looming the largest among the various principles and values and norms that have been recommended to guide. Of course, it won't be just transparency, but it's it's kind of top on the list for me. And Elizabeth made allusion to this. Enough of recommendations. Can we begin to also implement? Some would argue that ethics don't implement, they just make normative pronouncement. But I think with AI, we have some unique challenges on our hands that we should up the game a little bit, and hold big tech companies to task on some of their deployment, even with all of these the issues we've seen in AI biases, algorithmic bias, and all. It seems to me that we're not seeing an end to it, and people are just still doing business as usual. So it would be good if we could have some framing up on some of these regulations. Maybe that's where law comes in, because law now, we have aspects of law dealing with AI ethics as well. Maybe that's where there should be synergy between the AI ethicists and legal AI practitioners to ensure. And we would need a global body, so to speak, or some form of consortium to see to this kind of thing. But I would think that we should begin with transparency, because the opaqueness, the black box inherent in the workings of some of these AI systems, it leaves much to be desired. And then maybe we could also work to reducing the hype. People go to town with it on how much you could do, and how, and it kind of blurs the real issues in AI, and how, and the beautiful havoc it's wreaking. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Very nice. Lots of issues there as well, both this call for a more global, more unified approach to ethics. How do we work together? The fact that we say a lot of things, but a lot is also business as usual. What does it mean to have real impact? And I think that is in itself a difficult question to address, but also an urgent one, but is often clouded, as you point out, from the hype and excitement of AI, and therefore not being addressed in a meaningful way. Veronica, what do you see as the most pressing ethical issues from your perspectives?
Thank you very much for the question. And I agree with my colleague Titilola that before talking about fairness, we should take into consideration the concept of transparency. For that reason, with my team, I have developed the concept of right to know all implication. And I mean, both positive and negative implication that may occur during the use of the artificial intelligence system. And transparency should be the core principle of next ethical approaches that will be established also by technical standards that will be enforced by our European legislator as well, hopefully soon. So this is my point of view.
Yeah, I realize that there's a lot of intersection actually between you and Titilola and some of the work that you do and the real concerns that you have there that needs to be addressed. So thank you for that. So I have a question for Elizabeth. So as a founder of something like the Ignite Lab project, which intersection do you see between this, traditional, how do I ask this? So traditionally, innovation has raced ahead and regulation always follows. How do you see this intersection between innovation and practical applications of AI? How do you envision that we could obtain some kind of balance between that drive for innovation with the need to address the ethical concerns that we have in AI development?
Well, first of all, we acknowledge the tensions. The tensions will be always there, and the tensions are. That's also like if most of the people trying to make a change have an engineering mindset, is looking for solutions, right? Over just thinking, just the brainstorming that goes with it. I think we also have acknowledged that there is a group of people in Europe specifically that find that regulations and a lot of this ways to mitigate risk stifle innovation in a way, which we're just gonna say it doesn't, but a lot of them feel like, that there is a lot of talent has left Europe to the US because you cannot work with so many rules. At the same time, we want to find in that intersection of, okay, we are going to build a great product and follow. We talk about some examples of the IEEE and the ISOs, right? I think they include ethics as part of providing a good service. So it's part of a return on investment, right? When people see a product that has been crafted in a way that included ethics. So even if it's we're not yet at that stage where it's ethics by design, we are working towards that. But we acknowledge their tensions, like I mentioned, and that a lot of people see that there's a need to keep up with the technology that is in China, in the US, and that is pressure on the ecosystem as a whole, because we have to face it as a very competitive and without competitive environment, and without, if we were just to ignore that, things would be right? A different game. It would be a different game. So I don't know if that necessarily answers your question. A lot of this is still evolving. A lot of this we're still working on it as we see it, and we are also expecting changes in 2025 and see how things accommodate. But we have this vision that ethics is central to having good AI products and products that augment humans, not replace them.
Yeah, I think I think it's fair to say that there's tension, and then I think that it's good that you are acknowledging it and that you are working on, what is the right path. I think no one has really figured out the way to go, and as you mentioned, I think it is of concern, of course, that much talent is leaving the European Union. And I think maybe for two reasons. One is talent is leaving, but the other is that technology is being developed that's not compliant with the standards in Europe. And the question is whether it will leave Europe behind or whether it actually puts Europe ahead by protecting the people that live within the European community from AI that may not be conducive to good social cohesion. So there is no clear answer to these questions yet. So I think it is a work in progress. But I will jump to Gayathri because I'm curious about some of these AI-related controversies and tensions that we have. For example, biased algorithms and cybersecurity risks. We have seen some of these have really sparked public concern. And I wonder if you could give us an example from your perspective of a controversy that really sort of illustrates a critical ethical failure when it comes to cybersecurity, and also how could we avoid failures like this going forward.
Yes, I think when we did some kind of, I would like to highlight some test cases where actually these failed. Some bias and discrimination kind of outputs where we were testing some kind of vision cases where we do not have a right representation. In one of the where I was working with one of AI team who were working with a fashion industry. If you see, India is a very culturally diverse country, and the same kind of output where you get good outputs when you are calling out for a particular geography, it doesn't work in the same way when you call out for Indian model. So you see that representation in the learning, in the data sets, is not being represented that well. That is one use case. And another thing I would like to highlight is one of the use case that caught my attention was the predictive policing, where based on discrimination of the race, the genders, and the ethnic origin, these application which is doing a predictive analysis of the probability of being a potential offender is more just because of the facts of the race and the ethnic origin. So these kind of application actually do have that embedded bias and discrimination, which is like maybe coming from the data set or coming from the people who are training the model. uh, these cases, and something like even the controversy where I was mentioning about the deep fake or those kind of things, where the impact would be much more realistic and much more impactful to the real life. So those are much concerning. For me, these aspects of bias, discrimination, are key aspects, like how our frameworks are also being developed under transparency, the explainability aspects of why you're generating, how you're generating. Maybe it's all challenging when we reach that stage of achieving all those things, but these are the accountability, the fairness, or the bias inclusion in any of the innovation, or even in the governance aspect or the standard aspect, which are like the foundation pillars for any innovation. are much needed, I would say.
If I could add one case, is that okay?
Yes,
Regarding
absolutely.
to, yes, cybersecurity, yes, I was part of a group of people from different countries sharing on gender and cybersecurity, because gender is very sometimes overlooked in cybersecurity. So there is the case of this girl in Colombia, I believe, and a lot of other countries could relate to, and they had a problem with deep fakes. And she was a minor, and she went to the police. I mean, she had connections to kind of know about this AI. How do you handle it? Because she was at the sort of train station, subway, and a man apparently got, I mean, her information somehow, and he was sending her deep fakes to her WhatsApp. And when she ignored them, after a while, he was starting to send violent pictures like guns and kind of threatening her life. So when she went to the police was not prepared to tackle this type of issues. I mean, AI deepfakes. So they said something as precarious as, well, where's the phone of, like the evidence of the crime, which is not something at par with what's happening. And so they are not trained. I don't know what's the situation in other countries. I know that deepfakes has been a problem for minors also in Spain, but the institutions in Latin America, what I got from this discussion is are not prepared. We're not prepared for that. So it's cybersecurity wise, it's also like they don't know how to track, right, to the predator. So that's just one problem if you see it from a perspective of society. What's the impact on society? Obviously, there's other stuff in terms of cybersecurity that compromise more, like things like infrastructure and national security. But this is something tangible that could happen to people, and it's also worrisome. That's what I wanted to add.
Thank you so much for that, Elizabeth. I want to then bounce that back to Gayathri, because I think you mentioned earlier as well about it had gone up, these cyber or deepfake attacks 550%, and that 99% of the victims that are attacked are women. Could you speak a little bit to that?
Yes, I think these deepfake are impacting. I think they are targeting the key aspects like a political agenda, or the celebrity agenda, or something where you can actually make some impact. These kind of, like I was mentioning, the character AI kind of thing, and all these things. The deepfake specifically, where you can impersonate a person and make some kind of a critical decision where it is impactful, where human oversight would be much needed. And you have a deep fake, and you have the human oversight, which has been misrepresented. And the outcome of it can be very disastrous. I think where defaming people, or using the deepfake for some kind, stirring some kind of political agendas, or some kind of harmful, like toxic content being generated around the internet, or biasing people with some kind of influences of some orientations, some beliefs or something. These are very dangerous, I would say, especially with the deep fake. I think one use case also where we were trying to evaluate, it was a simple AI application which was not meant to manipulate or give any output on any kind of personal information of the user. So when we were testing, though the foundation models do have very good guardrails of these kind of the ethical bias or discriminatory or even the toxic and harmful things, we observed that the foundation model does have that guardrail, and the innovators who are using these foundation models and developing, but that is not being continued. You can not see that guardrail is being bypassed, and you can see some test case where it was able to generate some manipulative content, which was some kind of harmful output was produced to the user. So I think these guardrails or these things specifically to address these kind of deepfake or misrepresentation are very much needed.
Very, very interesting, and that brings me actually to Veronica, because I was thinking in the context of this discussion here. So you're on the sort of cutting edge of research, and you work on these issues about social justice and fairness and inclusivity, and this certainly is an issue of fairness and inclusivity, because this type of attacks that primarily are targeted against women both excludes them from society, makes technology dangerous to use, and also prevents them to have a fair experience of living in society, because we have technology that so effectively target women. So I wonder, from an academic point of view and from the research point of view, how do you think that the theoretical research on fairness and inclusivity that you are focused on can be translated into these practical applications that address social inequalities? And I think in the context of what Gayathri just said, is that there seems to be some guardrails, but they're not being used. What are your thoughts on those issues?
Basically, I think that we should develop from the academic experience some practical tools enabling individuals, people, and subjects, data subjects, considering new technologies, in order to better understand how that kind of systems work. If you know how the system works, you can also enforce some tools for reduce or eliminate the bias, or at least say that there's some discrimination occurs while using that kind of system. And as say before, the central point from scratch is the understanding of the system.
Yes, I think that's a very good point as well. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, why education is so important, so that we understand the limitations and the opportunities that come with that.
Yeah.
Titilola, for you as a fellow expert in philosophy, let me ask you, how can we ensure that these AI systems uphold the principles of social justice that we adhere to, both on a global scale, perhaps something like human rights? Is there something like human AI rights? And are there any ethical red flags that you believe that are not being adequately addressed in the AI trajectory that we see today? What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you very much. Let me start from where Veronica stopped, because while she was speaking, I was saying to myself, a good way to let theory translate into practice and praxis will be from those theories on fairness, on accountability. It would be good to develop like some checklist or toolbox that developers would make use of, not just after they have deployed the AI system, but would serve as some guide from the conception to the design to development and then to deployment, some kind of continuous review and audit. And the tool kit won't just be a one-off kind of, but we can actually have like a review board for some of these AI systems, and some kind of collaboration between industry and the education sector to ensure that we develop AI system that is quite beneficial for human good. That said, how we can ensure that the principles they translate to social justice and the likes. I think my response to that is not far-fetched from what I just said as well. It can be difficult. I know that the traditional bioethical principles of beneficence, principlism, we call it beneficence, non-maleficence, autonomy, and the likes, they've also been uh, interpreted or translated into the world of AI, as well as some of the values that could be imputed into AI systems, such that they don't harm, primum non cere, they don't harm, they do good, they respect the agency of their what Aristotle calls the efficient cause and the likes. But how that translates to practice, I think that it's still, we wouldn't expect somebody who is not a technical person to suddenly become a technical person because the person want to develop an AI system that is quite good. That is quite good in the sense that is very beneficial to humanity with limited or no harm imputed, but that it's important to have a nexus, a collaboration, a cooperation between those who have the theoretical skills or theoretical, or those who are normative inclined, especially in terms of AI, and those who have the technical know-how, such that they collaborate to bring some of these ideas into concrete, to bring some of these ideas to life in the kind of AI system that is being developed. That would be my suggestion, that we develop frameworks, toolkit, checkbox, a collaboration between the industry and academia to translate the theoretical aspect of what an AI system ought to be. First, we need to agree on that, which I don't think will be very difficult given the huge number of proposals on AI ethics and frameworks and norms that have been put forward, and then those who are the technical. But first, we need to get the technical people to understand that ethics is not trying to stifle creativity, innovation. I think I hear that a lot from the very tech people. Like, my organization does not really like this ethics thing, or you ethics people is like we against them kind of thing. So there's also need for some reorientation, maybe attitudinal change, to say that it's actually for the benefit of all. It's not we against you, but it's we as an individual, as humans, group of humans inhabiting the world, that we would like to make this world a better place for all of us, even in the age of AI, and also ask questions about what the kind of technology we would want and the kind of society we want and how we should go about that. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that response. I think one thing that is wonderful is that we are really starting to see some work coming out from academia that actually is incredibly useful. We just need to make sure that that conversation is taking place. Elizabeth, so we talked a little bit about the bad. I wonder if we could swap and think a little bit about innovation and the good. So with the work that you've done with innovation, there are probably some real world applications that you are familiar with. And I wonder if you could share an example where AI has had a positive impact on a social issue, and also what kind of ethical safeguard were put in place to kind of ensure that that could ensure its success. And if you're not familiar with a case, could you imagine a case perhaps where we might want to develop a technical solution to resolve a real world issue?
Yeah, I can talk about it hypothetically, right? Because I am not aware if this is happening, but it's part of when you mix AI with robotics. Uh, Speaking of the global south and how there's still cases of child labor, I would think that it would be a great application to have AI do things that marginalized communities were subject to for, uh, so that would be AI being for good in that way. And also because in the global south, we're still not having enough schools in remote areas. So that could be also another way. However, I know that there's also not everyone is sold on that because we still have problems about infrastructure in the global south, right? People don't have access to uh, internet, like all of them. So, but I think there are great applications. There's also I was also following the Google Developers Summit, the virtual summit, and how they released Gemma. I'm not advocating or sponsoring Google, no. Um, but so Gemma, it's also a chance for women who want to also develop models. Like, say, if you have your ancestral tongue, right? So it won't die. Like if you have a language that you want to survive in the AI age, instead of just letting English be the only language that could take you further, you could also we are at that point too where we could, I mean, if professionals or well, if the youth does get empowered and have access to the great tools are out there, great projects can come out of that. And also, like I said, for women to for me, that Google acknowledged that women have a different perspective on developing things is a great step, because it could just be like, business as usual. And I think we need more of those initiatives. We need uh industries to give room, with the help of AI, to see things differently. And in terms also of clean energy, um I am somewhat concerned that that is not being talked much about lately, because we were talking about it at some point, but then it kind of like went uh, somewhere else. But I think that there is a possibility for innovating in that too, like coming up with new technologies and new ways to um, find alternatives to the way that we're using energy, especially in the global south, where we also have different uh, climates, and we could really take advantage of solar energy, but our governments may not have access to the people that know how to work these technologies. So maybe AI can be a plus in that way. So those are some use cases that I would expect things to change, uh, our lives for good in the global south.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been an amazing conversation so far, but we are almost out of time. We have about 12 minutes left. And I want to make sure that that we have the time for all of you to answer our closing question, which has to do with the future. So for each of you, the same question. What is your vision for the role of AI in society 10 years from now? And what steps should we take today to ensure that AI serves the greater good? So this is really thinking into the future, how do you envision our future, and what should we do today to make sure that happens? And we'll start the other way around, I think. So we will start with Veronica, and then move in the different direction for this one. What do you think, Veronica?
Firstly, linked to my academic research, I hope that social values will be included in the development deployment of artificial intelligence system. As mentioned before by my colleague Titilola, we should probably make a list about that kind of social values that we should transmit to computer scientists in order to implement fair systems, fair new technological system. And then I aspire and I suppose that we will reach a model of the world where technology will support our development in terms of humans. Because, and while, as I mentioned during my presentation, I'm sure that artificial intelligence systems will help us in reducing discriminations and also differences between different kinds of individuals with different characteristics and different backgrounds as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Titilola, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Earlier, I had mentioned how it would be wonderful to have some collaboration between the tech experts and those who are prescribing the norms of what should guide technology. A way to do that towards the future, to bridge the seemingly we are tech people, we are normative people, you just want to use your ethics to stifle innovation, is to introduce ethics courses from the university is too late, maybe from the high school, such that, something you grow up with, to know that it's not stifling. The way I like to use the analogy of business ethics. Some think ethics in business is euphemistic. There is nothing ethics is doing in business, but ethics can actually help business to flourish and prosper. And so I like to think of ethics in technology as, it helps you to prosper, to flourish, to endure beyond generations. So it would be good to do that. And more importantly, it's never too late to ask certain questions. What kind of society do we want as humans? And what kind of society does technology drive us towards? It would be good to try to answer those questions and have some answers, no matter how rough those answers are, and try to work together as one big family in solidarity with one another, instead of all these divisions we've created for ourselves. We are ethics, we are tech, we are global south, we are global north. After all said and done, like the effects of climate change, of course, some parts of the world suffer it disproportionately, but we all are having a feel of it. So after all said and done, we are all one big human family that we should work in sync, in collaboration, in solidarity with one another. Thank you.
Beautiful words. Thank you so much. Gayathri, what do you think? What's your vision for the next 10 years, and how do we get there?
I so much echo with Titilola on cybersecurity being always the hurdle for any innovations. But yeah, on that note, I think future innovations, as I see and I have evidenced, I think personal favorite researchers in the field of agriculture from the University of Agriculture campus, where they are able to detect the soil moisture, soil fertilization level, and be able to automatically irrigate and spray the fertilizers And I think in the field of medical research, where you are having advancements in the detection of diabetic retinopathy, or the cancer research, the efficient way of early predictions, or even I think in the field of research, where one of the studies says that they have a 30% increase, and they do predict that the probability of the DNA edit and finding new proteins or finding new elements, all these are like the future what I see and advancements. And specifically coming to my domain, I think the advancements are the implementations that I have been seeing in more or less analyzing and correlating and improving the efficiency of handling risk, and making the turnaround times in identifying the incidents, and mitigating them or addressing them. And I think I especially also working on a pet project where you are having a threat modeling tool being developed with the capabilities of AI, which reduces the strenuous effect of the cybersecurity experts working around for long hours, which would take days and days of efforts in mere minutes. So I think the advancement in a positive note is much, much brighter what I see in the field of AI.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and some amazing suggestions, and some thoughts also there on actually improving the way that we use agriculture, and think about sustainable use of AI. Something we hadn't had a chance to cover here, but a massive issue for us to tackle as well. So thank you for bringing that up. Elizabeth, what do you think? What does our future look like for you, and how do we get there?
Well, I envision something that definitely includes having strong communities. I believe in the power of platforms, and I am really amazed at, always coming up with things like, for example, Blue Sky, and the chances to have always innovation give you an alternative to what it's already there. And like, if you don't agree with how some companies offering you as the future, as maybe Microsoft can come up with their vision of the future, well, you can also create your own, with your community, right? Your future. And this is our future with AI, with safe guardrails and cybersecurity and data privacy and inclusion, and even caring about the environment. So having that freedom is, for me, what matters in the future. Defending our freedoms, our agency as humans. That's what I see as our future, regardless of how the pieces accommodate in this big, because it's not a monolith of situations. And for AI ethics, I would expect, like, as the work of Dr. Luciano Floridi, he had a paper about the operationalization problems in AI ethics, that we could work on those too, so that AI ethics, as also Titilola was mentioning, is not seen as the enemy, or wow, what a problem for us. But in the future, I see it as AI ethics is seen as something so natural for us to have, rather than I have to go take a course, go take a really, we have books already, and like the work of Dr. Joy, Unmasking AI. We had for many years Weapons of Mass Destruction, and so many others. We also have the power of communities, like having documentaries about what's happening. They're already red flags. So basically, I see that there is power in also being an advocate, and also, yes, having that power, and we need that. And so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think you've mentioned a lot of names there of just incredible people that have already done a lot of work in really raising awareness around the issues and also the solutions, which we tend to forget, because a lot of times it's the tech companies, the big tech voices that get to run the conversations, and us here in ethics sounds a little bit like the raised finger, getting in the way of innovation and contrary to growth in technology, which, as you importantly point out, is not the case. That AI ethics is really just a way for us to acknowledge that we have set a certain standard for what we wish for our human society to be like, and that we are using an understanding of that to build into the technology that we use. So absolutely an incredible point. And I might add also, perhaps we need to start looking at our human rights, universal human rights. I have recently written on this myself, but perhaps given that AI didn't exist when they were written, and with all the new issues that we are looking at, perhaps we need a couple of new articles added to the long list of rights in the context of technology. It is very possible that we may be the first generation of humans that will be living alongside an intelligence that's significantly more intelligent than us. And it might be time for us to start thinking about what that will be like and what we wish for that to be like. I want to thank all of you again for your participation, for your ideas, for your willingness to share. I know that everybody that's listening, if you go into our schedule, you'll be able to see that you can link up with our panelists through LinkedIn if you want to continue the conversation there. We will continue for the rest of the day today, as well as in the coming 2 days. So please don't be shy, ask your questions, join in. We're so thrilled that you're joining us from all over the world. And thank you again to the panelists for taking the time, having the patience, and for sharing, and for being voices in AI ethics. We need to hear your voices loud and clear, and I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. Thank you so much for that.